You shot the pilot, Mama? You told us not to shoot the pilot.
Well, she's crazy.
What did you just say? I'm undercover with a group of escaped convicts.
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. Over the course of this last week, I watched this British sci-fi show called Intergalactic, which came out in 2021, was created by Julie Geary, and stars Savannah Steyn, Imogen Daines, Eleanor Tomlinson, and Dani Samba-Bandza. The premise of the show is that in the future, climate change has destroyed everything, and now the world has new cities kind of on stilts above major cities like London, and the whole world is controlled by a world government called the Common World. And the real story is about there's some escaped criminals or terrorists, and they're trying to find the terrorist headquarters so that they can combat the Common World. But there is a policewoman among their group, and she has to kind of kidnap one of them, return her, or at least give away their location and all that type of stuff. They do know she is a policewoman, but she tries to win them over anyways. What will happen exactly? You'll have to watch and find out. Alright, so what works with this series? Well, I do love representation in my media, and this is definitely a heavily female-dominated cast, as well as I think behind the scenes there's quite a few females as well. I think a few episodes were directed by men, but not all of them, and so this is great to see, you know, just a different perspective, a different way of life, and it's really cool to see it on screen. So if you're interested in seeing women in sci-fi, this is definitely something you should check out. Also, I thought the world was pretty cool. The Common World is kind of like an authoritarian government where they have colonies on other worlds, but all of their resources are stripped from them. Their people are brutalized by the soldiers, I guess, and everything is taken away from them. It's kind of allegorical to colonialism on Earth, but it does create this great setting where it does, you know, offer tension and conflict, and so that's really cool. You know, with all these sci-fi shows, their spaceship is also important. This one has a main spaceship too. It's called the Hemlock, I think, and it's pretty cool. It's like a donut flying around. It's just like this round thing. And it has lots of different hallways and kind of places inside of it that, you know, they can walk around in. And so I did think it was cool. I thought the design of it was neat. The CGI for it is okay. Nothing to write home about it, but definitely, you know, works for what they do. And yeah, I did like the design of the ship. And how the ship deals with faster than light travel, I thought was neat. They kind of go through like this, I don't know, it's kind of like in between different planes to travel. And I did think that was pretty cool. The first time you see it, you're like, oh wow, that's neat. And so I did like that. That worked for me. As for the plot, I thought the plot was okay. It is fast moving. By the end of the first episode, they give you enough to be hooked. By the end of the second episode, you'll definitely be hooked if you decide to watch it. And it's fast paced enough that, you know, every episode is something different. They do even have a few like sci-fi homages, or homage, I guess, or however it's pronounced. So they have kind of like a Aliens-esque scene, and then they have like an Island of Dr. Monroe scene. And so they do also offer you these kind of stereotypical things, but they do, you know, have a twist on it so that it does make it their own. So it all works out pretty well, and so definitely interesting. Another thing that worked for me was their ambiguous morals. They are kind of like terrorists and stuff, but there is one character who actually claims to be a pirate. He kind of like joins up with them and he's like, oh, I'm just a pirate. I'm just traveling with you guys. But then they actually decide to commit some piracy. Their ship is well known throughout the galaxy. So they decide to try to steal a new ship by just, you know, commandeering one. So I did think that was pretty cool. That there's lots of stuff like that where it's interesting. It's just something you don't see every day, just because of their questionable morals. It was cool that way. And finally, with this series, all the acting is actually quite good. And the characters, well, there's some of them that I got really attached to. I really liked it. There was this one woman, and she's like part snake, or has this like reptile blood and skin. They never explain why that actually happens, But you know, I didn't really question it. There's one girl, her dreads become like Medusa's snakes on her head, and they can attack and stuff. And then there's another crazy lady who seems to be like a cyber hacker, but then falls in love kind of with the police character, and they, you know, have a nice little romance. And so there's definitely some characters that you love and definitely some characters that you don't love so much, but you can kind of brush them aside and just stick to the characters you like, just like me. All right, so let's talk about what doesn't work with this one. Well, I did think there's lots of good elements with the plot, but I also thought there were a ton of really stupid things that happen. Like there's a cop with them, and why did they don't kill the cop, I don't know. She keeps trying to betray them. She'll send out signals with their hidden location. She'll try to run away. She'll try to give away their secrets to the government and all this different stuff. I don't know why they didn't kill her. It was so stupid that they left her alive. They do have like a relationship with her and a romance, so I understand why they kept her around, but you know, I would have got rid of her after the first time she tried to betray me, or the second time I definitely would have done it. The third time I certainly would have done it, and the fourth time, you know, that's out of control at that time, you know? So certain things like that really doesn't make sense to me. And there's other characters that try to betray them as well all the time. Why they're so trusting of these people don't really make sense to me, especially if you're like terrorists. You shouldn't just be trusting people. And also, the character of Tula really frustrated me. She's like the psychopath and the leader of the gang. And she has no sympathy or empathy towards anyone. She's always screaming and yelling. Even no sympathy for her child as well, always yelling at them. And also like no forethought in the case of some situations. She really just rules through strength or rules through power or the threat of power and violence. And that really annoyed me. I would have liked to have seen kind of a better leader, a smarter leader, and one that wasn't just so, you know, violent or intimidating that way. Like to have some compassion, try to lead rather than force people to do stuff. And so that really did annoy me and really set me up to kind of wish for her downfall. Now let's talk about who would enjoy this. I think general sci-fi people would enjoy it. It is a British one, so you do kind of have that kind of British style of storytelling, but generally I think most sci-fi fans could watch it, especially if you're into girl power. This series is all about that girl power. Whether or not it's coming from a crazy person or not doesn't really matter to me. There are kind of some interesting ladies there, and so if you're into girl power and sci-fi, yeah, give this one a watch. As for a rating, I'm going to give it a 5.6. That is better than average, but not above average, if that makes sense to you. Anyways, that's it from me, so leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.